Flack math! Give me some math and I'll give you some flack. Flack math!
Okay, we're just gonna do more scientific notation. We did for example, how do I write this number in scientific notation? How do we do that? What is it? Adeline?
1.2345678
Okay, that's the first step. What do we multiply it by?
times 10 to the 8.
Right, so we got to get it back to where it was, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we multiply by 10 to the 8th, right? And did we do problems like this? So if I go 0.0000123, how do I write this number in scientific notation? Somebody else. Marin, what do you got?
1.23 times 10 to the 5th.
Okay, it would be 5th, but it'd be left 5. So -5. Remember that? Okay, so negative exponents are really small numbers, like that. Positive exponents are really big numbers. Okay? Yes, Hunter.
I might have been doing those wrong.
Yeah?
I've been doing divided by 10 to the 5th.
That worked. That's the same thing.
Oh,
But actually, when you divide by 10 to the 5th, that is the same thing as multiplying by 10 to the -5th.
okay.
That's what negative exponents mean. Negative exponents have nothing to do with whether something's positive or negative. It just means instead of multiplying by that much, you're going to divide by that much. Okay? We're going to talk about negative exponents much later in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. So don't worry too much about that. For now, just move it that much to the left. Okay? If you said divided by 10 to the the 5th, it's still right, but it's not scientific notation. Scientific notation is multiplying by a power of 10. Okay. So let's scoot back here. What if I've got some weirdness happening here, and I've got a couple things. If I have like a number that looks like standard notation, and then I multiply by 10 to the 5th, I want to write this in standard notation, in scientific notation. What's the best? How do we do this? Because this is not standard notation, because it's multiplying by a power of 10. Standard notation is a normal number. And it's not scientific notation because that's not right. Remember, scientific notation, you have to have a number in between 1 and 10. So a decimal right there. So what do? How do we write it in scientific notation? Okay, Grace, do you know?
So you're going to add, you're going to take the decimal place over 5 to make it in standard notation.
Okay, you can do that way. Yep, so let's see here. We're going to go 4600. And move it over 5 places. Okay, now what?
And then you're gonna go 4.6 times 10 to the
Yeah, 1, 2. So let's see there. That's 7, 8. So 8.
Yep.
Good, that works. There's another way to do it. Anyone know another way, Hunter?
So it'd be 4.6, and then you take the 3 spots right there and add them to the I forget the name of that.
Yep.
Exponent.
Yep. So this one, if I just ignored that 10 to the 5th for a second, then this is 4600, right? So you know how to write that in scientific notation. Put the decimal after the 4, multiply by a power of 10, that will return it. So this is 4.6 times 10 to the 3rd times 10 to the 5th. What's 10 to the 3rd times 10 to the 5th?
10 to the 8th.
Yeah, because what you're doing here is you're multiplying times 10, 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 right? So you're multiplying by 8 tens altogether. When you multiply powers of 10 together, all you're doing is just adding the exponents. So this is 4.6 times 10 to the 8th. Okay, let's try another one. Let's try this. 25 times 10 to the -5th. I want to write this in scientific notation. Do you guys know how to do that? See if you can do it. Adeline, do you know?
2.5 times 10 to the negative 6.
Okay. Close, but no. You just went the wrong way.
Oh.
You know, Hunter?
2.5 times 10 to the negative 4.
Yeah, okay, because look what happens. So this is, what's 25? 2.5 times 10 to the first, right? Times 10 to the negative 5. What happens when you add those exponents? You get negative 4, okay? So good. So this is just 2.5 times 10 to the negative 4th. Very good. Okay, if we did it Grace's way, we could have done it Grace's way. This is Grace's way. It's not like it's Grace's way. She's not the only one that does it. But if I move this decimal 5 places to the left, it's going to look like this. 0.00025. Right? And how do I write that in scientific notation? Well, put the decimal after the 2. And then to get it back to there, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. Same way. Okay? The only time Grace's way does not work great is when this is 25 times 10 to the negative 438.
Oh, that's a big
So if you put that in standard notation, you're going to be writing a lot of zeros, aren't you? Okay. And you will get problems like that. Not a lot, maybe 1 or 2 in your lifetime, but don't stress about it. So either of those ways works. You can choose to do it however you want. Let's do one more and then we'll move on to lesson 70. So here's example 2. 0.25 times 10 to the 4th. So try this on your own. I want to figure out the standard notation, or I want to write it in scientific notation. All right, we got some answers. Anybody else have some answers? Maybe someone who hasn't answered a lot. Grady, do you have an answer?
Yeah, but I don't think it's right.
What is it?
2,500.
So if you were to put it in standard notation, that's right, 2,500. So how do you write 2,500 in scientific notation?
2.5 times 10 to the 3rd.
That's right. Okay. So what Grady did is he did the Grace method. Okay. It's not really called the Grace method, but you know. So he just turned it into a standard notation, 2,500. You see how he got that? He just moved the decimal over 4 places. He had to add a couple zeros, so 2,500, right? So to put that as scientific notation is 2.5 times 10 to the, let's see, move it back to 2,500, 3 places to the right, times 10 to the 3rd. That works. Okay, so I'm going to just do it this way, where this is 2.5 times 10 to the negative 1, all times 10 to the 4th. Combine that 10 to the negative 1 and 10 to the 4th together, you get 10 to the 3rd. 2.5 times 10 to the 3rd. Either way works. You can choose to do it whatever way you want. All right. Any questions? Okay. So we're going to talk about volume next. If a Rubik's Cube was actually just a bunch of cubes glued together and you couldn't move it, how many little cubes would there be in a Rubik's Cube?
Like a standard one?
Like a 3 by 3 by 3 Rubik's Cube. How many cubes is that?
27.
Okay, because what you got is you got your Rubik's Cube here, right? Okay. I know, I'm awesome. Okay.
Covered in.
So you got the base, you got on the bottom here. How do you figure that out? That's 3 by 3, right? It's 3 rows of 3. And then you got the height here. So times this 3 is 27. So what do we do? The volume equals area of base. So how many cubes can you set down on the bottom? Okay, you can fit 3 rows of 3 on the floor of this Rubik's Cube, right? So you got 3 by 3. That's the area of base. And then how many of those layers can you stack on top of itself? Well, there's 3. So times height. That's just the height. Okay? So if a hotel room has 20 rooms per floor and it's got 12 floors, how many rooms are in the hotel? 20 rooms per floor, and you got 12.
240 rooms.
Yeah, so you just multiply how many rooms you can fit in one floor times how many floors there are, right? That's what you're doing with finding the volume of any prism. Remember, prism has the same shape all the way up. So if you can find the area of one of those shapes, you just have to multiply by how many of those you can stack on top of itself. Okay? Hunter?
I think you made a mistake.
I did?
You didn't tell him off for saying and.
Oh, when did you say and?
I heard 244.
Oh, did you? 200?
I don't
You said
remember.
240?
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I should have scolded him.
Yeah.
Feel real bad about that. Okay? So let's see if we can find the volume of this rectangular prism. So this is like a little box here, okay? So let's say that these are the dimensions of the box. Okay, can you figure out how many cubic centimeters I can fit inside of this box? You got it? You should have it. So what's volume? Volume is area of base times height. What's the base? What's the area of the base?
20.
20, because it's just 5 times 4, right? That base right there is just 5 by 4. And then what's the height?
3. So 60.
60, that's right. So that equals a 5 by 4 rectangle, but there's 3 layers of that rectangle, right? So that equals 60. And this time we are measuring in cubic units. That's how many little centimeter cubes will fit inside of that box. Okay?
It was the little 3 above this, yeah.
Little 3 above this, that's cubic centimeters.
Okay.
Okay? So I did notice this on at least one of your tests. Like if you wanted to say cubic units, you don't say 60 cubic like that. Because that means something else, doesn't it? You know what that means?
A big number.
That means 216,000. It's not 216,000, it's 60. So don't do that. If you want to do units cubed, you can do that. Or you can say cubic units or same thing with square units and square centimeters, whatever. Okay? But make sure you're cubing the label, not the number. All right, so this is volume. Now this works with any shape. Like if I had this is what's called a triangular prism because the base is a triangle. Okay, so how do you find the volume? Area of base times the height. So if this was like a 3 by 4 triangle and it was 10 inches high, so how do you find the volume of that prism? Do you know? What is it?
3 times 4,
Okay, which is?
12
Okay, then what?
times 10.
Close. You looked hesitant. What did you forget to do? What did you forget to do?
My brain. I don't know.
What did you forget to do, Grace?
she forgot to divide it in half.
Right, so area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So you just forgot to cut that in half. Okay, times height, right? So it would be 4 times 3, which is 12 divided by 2, which is 6, times 10, which is also 60 cubic inches. Okay, so it's not just length times width times height, right? When I asked a lot of younger people how to find the volume, a lot of people just say length times width times height. Well, that's only if it's a rectangular prism. Because how do you find the area of a rectangle? Length times width, right? So to find the volume of a rectangular prism, it's just length times width times height. But if you try to do length times width times height here, that's wrong. So that's not what volume always is. Volume of a prism is area of base, whatever that shape may be, times the height. Okay, we're going to talk about this later, but since volume is just area of base times height, look, you could find the volume of a cylinder because what's the base? What shape is that? How do you find the area of a circle? It's just pi r squared, remember? Find the area of a circle. So to find the volume of a cylinder, it's pi r squared times height, pi r squared h. Okay, we're going to talk about this later, but for now, you need to know how to find the volume of rectangular prisms. Can you do that? You feel pretty confident with that? Okay, that's all I have today. Okay, we have done 70 lessons so far.
That's enough.
So our goal is to get to 100, okay? So you've done 70 out of 100 lessons so far. That's pretty good. We can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, can't we?
Black math, give me some math and I'll give you some flack. Black math.